everyone. Welcome to Mason's online classroom. Today we're going to talk about common tools or equipment used in masonry. This lesson contains 3 parts. Namely, Part 1, Masonry Personal Tools, Part 2, Masonry Public Tools, and Part 3, Masonry Testing Tools. By the end of this lesson, we'll have a basic understanding of various tools commonly used in masonry. First, let's see Part 1, Masonry Personal Tools. 1. Trowels, also known as brick trowels and mud trowels, are tools used and kept by individuals. They're used for spreading mortar, cutting bricks, plastering, and scoring. There are various types of trowels, and 4 of them are shown here. 2. Large trowels are tools used for shoveling, spreading, and scraping mortar. They can also be used to mix mortar at any time. Large trowels are mostly peach-shaped, and some are long triangular and rectangular. They're the key tools for the implementation of the 3-1 masonry method. 3. Brick hammers are tools for cutting and shaping bricks. The brick hammer can be used as a small hammer in conjunction with the large trowel. Moreover, it's a good tool for making 3/4 bricks. Some operators carve a groove as a mark on the handle of the brick hammer, ensuring that the distance from the groove to the cutting edge of the brick hammer is 3/4 of the length of a brick. 4. Hammers, commonly known as xiaolangtou in Chinese, are used for chiseling stones and cutting irregular-shaped bricks. 5. Steel chisels, also known as chisels, are forged with 45 or 60 grade steel. Generally, their diameter is 20 to 28 mm and length 150 to 250 mm. The chisel is used in conjunction with a hammer for chiseling stones and cutting irregular-shaped bricks. It has 2 types of heads, pointed or flat. 6. Screeds, made of non-deformable wood, are used to control mortar joints and spread mortar on the wall. 7. Tuck pointers, also known as mortar spoons and pointing trowels, are typically made by flattening an 8 mm diameter steel rod and attaching a wooden handle. They're commonly used for jointing of plain walls. A wider version of the tuck pointer, made of a 1 mm thick steel plate, is used for jointing of rubble walls. 8. Finishing trowels, similar to tuck pointers, are made of a 0.8 to 1 mm thick steel plate and riveted with a wooden handle, serving as a tool. They can be used for plastering and jointing of stone walls. 9. Hawks, also known as mortarboards, can be of wood, plastic, and metal. During jointing, they're used to hold mortar. Next, let's get to learn Part 2, Masonry Public Tools. 1. Sieves, mainly used for sand screening, with sieve openings of 4 mm, 6 mm, 8 mm, and other various sizes. 2. Shovels, coming in 2 types, square-headed and pointed-headed, are used for digging soil, loading, sand screening, etc. 3. Handcarts, with a capacity of approximately 0.12 square meters, and a total axle width of less than 900 mm, can easily pass through indoor doorways. They're used for transporting mortar, bricks, and other bulk materials. 4. Brick carts, specialized vehicles for transporting bricks. They're convenient to use and can reduce brick breakage. 5. Brick clamps, also known as brick handling tools, can securely hold 4 standard bricks at a time. They're used for loading and unloading bricks. 6. Brick cages, tools used for lifting and transporting bricks via overhead crane. During construction, stack a certain quantity of bricks on the ground first, Put the brick cage in place, and lift it to the designated location. 7. Hoppers, tools used to lift and transport mortar via overhead crane. Once the mortar is lifted to the designated location, the opening of the hopper is opened, and the mortar is poured into the mortar bin. 8. Mortar bins, made of 1 to 2 mm thick sheet metal, are used by masons to store mortar. 9. Other tools, rubber hoses, large buckets, mortar hose, mortar ladles, wire brushes, and brooms. Now let's move on to Part 3, Masonry Testing Tools. 1. Steel tape measures, available in various sizes such as 1 meter, 2 meters, 3 meters, and 30 meters, 50 meters, etc. Masons prefer to use 2 meter steel tape measures. The steel tape measure is primarily used to measure axis dimensions, positions, wall length, wall thickness, as well as dimensions of door and window openings, and hole placement dimensions. 2 straightedges, also known as line levels, are used to check the verticality and flatness of walls. Length, 1.2 to 1.5 m, material, wood or aluminum. Nowadays, they're often replaced by electronic levels. 3. Plumb bobs, used to check the verticality of walls. They can be used independently or in conjunction with a straightedge. 4. Mason's lines, nylon strings with a diameter of 0.5 to 1 mm. They're used to check the straightness of horizontal mortar joints in wall construction. 5. Feeler gauges, used in conjunction with a straightedge or a level to measure the verticality and flatness deviation of walls and columns. Each increment on the feeler gauge represents a thickness of 1 mm in the vertical direction. 6. Levels, made of iron or aluminum alloy, with a glass tube embedded in the middle, are used to measure the horizontal deviation, flatness, and inclination of masonry. 7. Grid rulers, used to inspect the fullness of mortar in horizontal joints of masonry. The dimensions of a grid ruler are the same as the large face of a standard brick. It is divided into 10 grids in both the length and width directions. 8. Squares, or tri-squares, are made of wood, having a side length of 200 mm. There are 2 types of squares, inner square and outer square, which are used respectively to check the squareness of corners in masonry. 9. Batter boards, used as a standard for establishing axis lines and center lines during masonry work after the positioning and setting out of the building. During the construction positioning process, the elevation of the top surface of the board is generally required to be the relative elevation of the building plus or minus 0.000. Mark axis line positions on the board, typically in the shape of a symbol, and hammer a nail measuring 20 to 25 mm in length into the top surface of the board. When a baseline is stretched between 2 opposite batter boards, it represents the building's axis line. It is strictly prohibited to collide with, step on, or sit on the batter boards during construction. 10. Story poles, also known as story rods, are used to control the vertical dimensions during wall construction. They come in 2 types, one for the foundation, and the other for the wall. 1. Wall story poles are generally made of wood measuring 5 by 7 centimeters in cross-section and 3.2 to 3.6 meters long. They're marked with the number of brick layers, the thickness of mortar joints, the height of doors and windows, floor slabs, ring beams, lintels, and each floor. 2. Foundation story poles are generally made of China fir measuring 30 mm square. The top of the pole should be above the moisture barrier. The poles are marked with the number of brick layers, the thickness of mortar joints, and the height of ground ring beams and moisture barriers. That concludes our lesson for today. Thank you all for watching.